Hi everyone, this is Lyndon. I'm a backend engineer at Hasura. Today I want to introduce you to a new upcoming feature that we're calling multiple JWTs. So historically you've been able to configure one JWT configuration with GraphQL engine, but coming up for pro and cloud users at least, you're going to be able to configure more than one JWT configuration. So that's what this feature is about. I'll give you a little rundown of some of the kind of motivations and use cases, then some technical details about how they're resolved, and a little demo. So first off, just in terms of why someone might want to use this feature, there are a few obvious motivations, but then there might also be plenty of other things that are not listed here. But the top ones would be rollover. So if you wanted to kind of like update your configuration, rather than having to flick a switch and have all of your users kind of switch over to the new thing synchronously with the change, this will now let you kind of do a blue-green style approach, where you could add the new configuration, then in leisurely pace migrate all of your users, and then once they're all migrated you can turn off the old one. So that's a very common pattern for other things that now can be used for JWTs. You might also have kind of multiple JWT providers that you want to be able to run in tandem. And then you might also want to be able to kind of pool your users according to some JWT mechanics, which can be powered by a feature like this. Then in terms of, so how is a specific kind of configuration selected if a user is kind of submitting their token? So there's in the JWT configuration, there's kind of like two parts of the configuration that are relevant to this. There's a header part of the configuration. By default, this is the authorization header, but it can also be done explicitly, or it can live inside a cookie under a certain name. So when you submit your token, if you submit it under the kind of matching location specified by a configuration, then it will become a candidate. Then there's a second kind of refinement done to determine whether it's relevant via issuer. So when you have your kind of JWT generated, you can have an issuer field present, and then you can also have an issuer specified in the configuration. And then if those two match, then that becomes a valid token candidate. If the issuer is missing either from the token or from the configuration, then it's ignored in the corresponding token or configuration, and it will just simply use the header location to determine whether it's a valid candidate. And then finally, once you have your token candidates, if you have 0, then you just do the normal unauth flow. So if you have an unauth role configured, it will use that. If 1 is found, then the token validation flow is performed. And then if more than 1 is found, currently that's an error due to the ambiguity of the situation. So we won't try and validate multiple kind of token candidates. We'll just return a kind of ambiguity error. I'll give you a little demo now. So if I switch over here, what I'll do is I'll run pro with two JWT configurations specified. So here's one, and then here's another one. So if I spin this up, we should be up and running. I've generated these, by the way, by another team member's little tool called JWT config generator. But there's plenty of ways to generate these configurations and JWTs, especially if you're already familiar with using single JWTs. So with that up and running, I could kind of run some curl commands, but what I'll do is I'll jump over to the console that everyone will be familiar with. So I've got some data set up in a table, just with 2 little IDs. I'll show you the data now. So if you have a quick look in the food table, then the permissions, you should see that we have kind of a few roles set up. I have the normal admin role that has all access, and then I've created a badmin role that has some filtering performed on the roles, on the rows, sorry, which just checks that the role matches. So if we have a look at the data, then you should see that the role is specified here, so that's going to determine what's selected. Yeah. So as the normal admin via admin privileges, you can select all roles. But then I also have 2 of these JWTs tokens set up. So we'll use the first one here, and that should allow admin role access, which once again can select all the rows. And then we'll also then have a second token set up, which allows only the more restricted badmin roles to be selected. So I'll quickly show you those tokens. So here's the admin one with the admin role allowed and by default. And you can see here that the issuer is set to Hasura. And then we have the second one with the badmin role allowed and by default. And then here the issuer is set up as Google. This is just a string. It's not actually either issued by Hasura or Google, but I've just set them up for testing purposes like that. Yeah, then if we have a quick look over at the configuration that was generated, you can see there's the corresponding Google one here and the corresponding Hasura one here. So that's kind of it for the demo. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea about how this could be used. And so I'd encourage anyone who has a Pro or a Cloud account that can access Pro features to give this a go if it seems like something you might want to play around with or potentially use in production. Let us know what you think. Thanks for watching.